One of the best things about going to estate sales in New England is that there are lots of treasures stored within those older houses. This particular estate sale was advertised as having collections saved over generations. You could definitely see from the photos that this estate sale was packed with lots of interesting items, but I only spotted a few things that I definitely wanted. One of them was a Catherine Home bowl tucked within a lot of glassware, and another was a hint of a crewel piece. So what did I end up finding at this estate sale? Let's find out. Welcome back to Textiles and Treasures. If you're new here, I'm Kim and I love hunting for vintage glassware, retro board games, and anything to do with needlework and fiber arts. Although I spotted a Catherine Home Lotus bowl in the pictures, there wasn't a lot of mid-century glassware. It was definitely a lot of Depression glass, older antique glass, and teacups, china, that kind of thing. So I was hoping I might have a chance to get the Catherine Home bowl like I did earlier this year. Even though I showed up an hour and 15 minutes early, there was already a pretty sizable line. I was probably somewhere around 30 in line, and because they can't let as many people into the house these days, I had to wait. By the time I entered the house, it had already been 45 minutes, and I knew my chances of picking up the Lotus bowl were slim. And I was right. Although I did not get my blue Lotus bowl, I did find some other items that have the same sort of vibe. The first piece I picked up is this beautiful painted ceramic bowl. As you can see, it does have a similar leaf motif, but this one appears to be hand painted. You can see that it has this cool design etched into the glaze all around the outside. And as you can see, this was made in Sweden. So we definitely have some of that Scandinavian vibe. You can also see the maker's mark here on the bottom. Although this is not Catherine Home, this is still really pretty, and these are definitely colors I like. I love purple and I love these green colors. So this is something that definitely fits my vibe. Another thing that I felt was a little bit mid-century inspired was this ceramic tile. I definitely have a thing for these ceramic art tiles. I can't resist them because they're useful and they're also decorative. I thought this design was really cool. It looks botanical as well, and I liked the colors on this, and I figured why not? I also found this set of very detailed plates. I feel like I've seen these before, but I don't know that much about them, but I definitely really like these tiny little scenes. This type of scene is a motif I find myself drawn to, whether that's in cross stitch or embroidery, other artwork, or in ceramics, as you can see here. As you can see, I have a set of 2 of these plates, and I also found one of these espresso cups. I don't believe there was a second one, which means it may have gotten broken at some point in its past. But I really like that teal green color and the detail of the pattern. Here you can see the maker's mark on the back, and you can see that it was made in Denmark. It's a limited edition. So I definitely thought this was interesting and worth picking up. Very little of the glassware was actually labeled, so I figured I would make a pile and see what kind of price I got. While we're talking about glassware, I also decided to pick up this Vaseline glass covered trinket dish. Based on the other items in this household, I want to say that this is older, perhaps even Victorian or the early turn of the century, last century, but I can't be entirely sure because it does look like they reproduced these. As you can see here, this trinket dish definitely glows under black light thanks to the uranium. Whenever I can find Vaseline glass in good condition, I tend to pick it up because I mostly have green Depression glass in my collection. As I mentioned, one of the things that brought me to this estate sale was that I saw a hint of crewel sticking out in a stack of paintings and other pieces of art, and I was definitely curious because it looked like a house that might have done a lot of needlework. I was really excited to find this huge crewel piece. As you can see, this is a beautiful winter scene. And I just love the tiny little people in the little village, the ice skating, everything that's going on in this piece. Like I said, this is one of those motifs I find myself being drawn to. The thing that made me really excited is that this is well stitched. You can definitely see the detail and the shading, and it is done by somebody who had skill. You can still find this kit on eBay. This was a Paragon kit. But of course, it does save you some time if you can find one that's already complete. I was happy to see that this was carefully framed, which is always a sign that this has been taken care of. Like many of the items at this sale, this wasn't marked, which can be a good or a bad thing depending on how lucky you are. This will definitely be great to display in the winter. I headed up to the attic where I found more piles of artwork, and this is where I had seen another crewel piece sticking out. Lucky for me, there were actually quite a few pieces of crewel work, and I was able to pick ones that really fit my vibe. I noticed that a lot of crewel work has the avocado greens and oranges of the 70s, but I prefer a slightly different color palette. One of the pieces that I absolutely loved is this piece. As you can see, it is framed with a silver frame, which is something I really like because I'm not so much into the brass and the gold. And this has grays, blues, and yellows. Absolutely beautiful. The coloring on this is really interesting because it's kind of a gray brown. And this is definitely detailed crewel work done by somebody who had skill with the needle. It takes a lot of patience to add all of these French knots. This style of crewel was definitely popularized by Elsa Williams, but I'm not sure if this was a kit or something that was drafted from a book. I absolutely love this piece. I hope you're able to see the fine detailing on this piece. This is the piece that I saw peeking out at the top of a stack of artwork that made me think there would be other crewel pieces. I was so excited to find this piece. As you can see, it's very long and tall. The reason I was drawn to this piece is I absolutely love the coloring. It's got more of those rich royal colors that I prefer. As you can see here, there is a beautiful butterfly and there's great detailing on this piece. I absolutely love it. And it's funny because right before I found these pieces, I had been observing that I don't often find floral pieces. I find a lot of other types of needlework, but not florals. So finding so many of them was a blessing. I didn't notice it at the time I bought it, but when I got this home, I realized that there's this beautiful note on the back of the piece. This was also custom framed, which tells you that the person who made it really cared about it. Here's what the note says. I embroidered this picture when I was 86 years old. Have just had it Scotch guarded and framed as an heirloom gift at 88 and a half years old for you. I hope you will enjoy it. Lovingly, Aunt Edna. How amazing is the history on this piece? It just goes to show you that when somebody has so much skill after so many years of practice, they can really truly produce handmade works of art. I feel very lucky to have this piece in my collection. The last crewel piece that I found was this tiny little piece. I found this in a stack of smaller framed pieces. They had a lot of artwork at this house. As you can see, this also has a silver tone frame and we have purples, blues, and greens. Definitely my colors, so I was happy to pick this up as well. Check out the detail on this floral design. Absolutely amazing. It makes me wonder if it was the same aunt who stitched all these pieces or some other relative or just somebody else. I don't often find smaller pieces, so this was another good find. There were a few more pieces of crewel. Like I said, they weren't necessarily in the color schemes I would go for. The stitching wasn't quite as beautiful, and I didn't know how much they would cost because if they had been marked at a reasonable price, I might have purchased them all. Another thing that this house had a lot of was wood. It is very common in these old New England homes to have a lot of wood. I do have a bit of a weakness for beautiful woodwork, so I definitely had to pick up a few pieces. Upstairs in the attic, I found a bunch of vintage games. I had a lot of the board games, but I was definitely drawn to these wooden pieces. As you'll see in a moment, I have a weakness for high quality wood, things that are made of wood. This looked really interesting to me because it actually has the instructions and it has the original dies that it came with. This game is called Low Roll. I believe this is similar to another game I have in my collection, but I could not resist this nice wood construction. It's in excellent shape and it looks like I'm going to have fun playing this game. This is one of those games that you can keep out for somebody to pick up anytime they want. This is one of the things that was marked at the estate sale and it was being sold for $10. I figured that that was okay because sometimes I pay a little more for the marked items and I get a good deal on the unmarked items. It still has the manufacturer's mark, which I think is pretty cool after all these years. The other game I decided to get was the Scanned-In Roulette game. I have never heard of this game before and I wasn't able to find much information online. I'll have to keep doing some research. As you can see, this game is also played on a wood base. You can see that it comes with all of the marbles here, as well as the wooden top. These are stored in the original felt case. This game was also made by Crestline, and you can see the instructions here on the inside hardcover. For $9, why not? It looks like it'll be interesting to try out. In the attic, I also found a couple of other interesting wooden pieces. I found this wooden desk, and as you can see, the lid opens up so you can store your stationery, your checkbook, whatever you're writing, and it's just a simple little writer's desk. I have actually been on the lookout for something like this, and for such a small piece, I felt like it was definitely worth picking up. I like these simple wooden pieces, and I like that you can hide things inside, keep your mess a little bit under control, and even though we don't write as much correspondence as we used to, we still write, and I still have things I can stick in here. This little wooden lap desk was $6. I also found this little chest with 6 drawers. Right before I found this at the estate sale, I found something similar on eBay for sewing notions, so I definitely was curious, and I felt like it would be perfect to store little loose items. It was in excellent condition. It looks to be pretty good quality wood, and for $5, I figured it was a good deal. These little drawers are pretty cute too. I also found this little wooden plate stand. I like to pick up nice quality versions of these plate stands when I find them, and this was wood, so why not? I also found this sliding portable bookshelf. I love that it was wood, it's in really good condition, and it's perfect for storing cookbooks or a few books on a desk or whatever you want to do. As you'll see in a moment, I am definitely a book lover, so this will absolutely come in handy. As I mentioned, I have a weakness for wood pieces, and when I can find fine detailed wood pieces, I definitely get curious. As you can see, this little trinket box has a very interesting design carved into it. On the inside, it says walnut, and there's a little information card inside. However, this card doesn't seem to go to this piece because it's a different artist. I definitely want to track down these pieces, as they say that they are from Quilting Designs, but this one is made by a different artist. You can see the artist's name here, and you can see that it has these little felt protectors to keep from scratching your other wood. What's neat about this piece is that the pegs fit into the top, so it is a very secure fit. This trinket box will be perfect for jewelry or any other type of little trinkets, and I'm happy that I picked it up. Last but not least, I picked up some books. I have a pretty sizable book collection, and so I'm trying not to get that many books. I definitely expanded my collection by picking up things for so cheap at the bin. However, I did find a few books that piqued my interest, so they came home with me. I ended up paying $1 a book. The first book I spotted is Exploring South America. As I mentioned in other videos, I've spent a few years living in South America, and I love looking at pictures of the amazing continent. So I thought this book looked pretty interesting. It's a hardcover in really good shape, and I figured, why not? I also found this vintage book about home tonics and refreshers. I feel like this kind of information is a bit of a lost art. It's hard to find this information as regularly these days, so I decided to pick up this book. It looked interesting. I also picked up this book, The Secret Life of the Forest. I like learning about herbs, plants, and nature, so finding out a little bit more about the forest sounded pretty interesting. You can see that it has some interesting illustrations. I'm an avid tea drinker, so this book on Taking Tea, The Essential Guide to Brewing, Serving, and Entertaining with Teas from Around the World sounded interesting. I'm definitely curious about these different types of tea service. Even though I picked up quite a few books on herbs, I thought this one looked interesting as well because it's an illustrated encyclopedia. This looked to be fairly easy to read and understand, and again, I figured why not. This isn't one of the books I see a lot, so it definitely caught my eye. This book also looked really interesting. It is a Victorian flower album, and it has illustrations that were collected and painted in the summer evenings of 1873 as a pleasing recreation. I could not leave these beautiful illustrations behind. This will be a fun book to page through on a nice warm summer night. Last but not least, I got this book called Textile Style. Even though my channel is called Textiles and Treasures, I still have a lot to learn about textiles, and this book seemed to give me some more information. This book talks about how to decorate with antique and exotic fabrics, so I definitely thought I could learn a lot from this book. It seems to have some history in addition to how to style these pieces. In the end, I spent $67 for everything I found at this estate sale. I spent $7 on the books, $19 on the games, $11 on the marked woodwork, and $30 for everything else. That was definitely a reasonable price considering the quality of the items that I found. In the end, I'm glad I went to this estate sale even though I didn't get the Catherine Home Bowl. I found some amazing crewel work, some interesting games, some great books, and some beautiful woodwork. Who can complain? Leave a comment and let me know which of these pieces you think was my best find. Even though I love the glassware and this really cool hand-carved wood piece, my favorite piece has to be this crewel. The handwritten note on the back really makes this a treasure. Thanks for checking out my estate sale haul. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see other treasures I find at estate sales, be sure to subscribe and click that bell so you don't miss another video. Have a good one! Goodbye!